I've compiled everything that you need to have a successful podcast into this video. You're going to learn how to put together a podcast studio, how to record clean, crisp audio, the basics of how to use a camera, and then finally how to stream and record your podcast using OBS Studios. I've also provided timestamps in the description box of this video so you can find exactly what you're looking for. Also down below, I've provided some links to some things that you might need for your podcast. So please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Enjoy the video. I believe it's going to be very helpful. I'm going to show you everything that I did to turn this into this. Today I'm going to show you everything I did to turn an old office into a fully functioning YouTube/podcast studio. So I work at a church and we do weekly live streams every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We needed a space where we can record and stream professional looking content, but we had a budget and we needed it to be ready to go to produce good looking content at the click of a button. We ended up taking a section of a room that's also used as an office, and we painted the walls and the ceiling above black to give a good blank canvas to point our cameras at. I'll go over more of what we ended up doing to the walls later. So now that the wall was black, it was time to decide how we were going to light the area. The thing is, we had to make sure it looked good on camera, and we had to keep the cost low. I ended up going with these newer 660 LED panels that I'll leave a link for down below. Whenever I purchased these lights, they came in a bundle of 2 with stands and these nice bags to keep them in. I'll provide a link in the description of this video for the exact model of light. I decided to use this specific fixture because it was budget friendly. It also allows me to control the color temperature. So once the lights were decided upon, I needed some way to hang these lights so that there wouldn't be stands all over the room. I also needed a solution that would allow me to angle the lights as I needed. If you're looking to do something similar to this setup, but your budget is a little bit tighter than mine was, you could probably just skip this next step altogether and use the stands that came with your lights. I ended up going with this DJ truss system to hang the lights from. I'll have a link for this in the description as well. It was almost the perfect size for the space, and compared to other options, it's fairly easy on the wallet. Once the truss was set up, I hung the newer 660 panels from the truss using these Velcro straps. These straps were actually designed to be used for cable management. So this obviously isn't a permanent solution, however the lights don't weigh all that much. Doing it like this allows me to move them as needed. I'm using 5 of these fixtures, which is probably a bit overkill, but my thinking was that using more fixtures would allow me to run each one on a dimmer setting so that it wouldn't be so harsh on the guests that are sitting in the set. You could probably get by with just using 3 of these fixtures and running them on a brighter setting. The room actually has overhead lighting installed into the drop ceiling, but while we're recording, I want to have full control over the lighting in the room. So by turning off the overhead light and just using these LED panels, this is a good way for me to control the lighting of the room, and I can decide how much I want to wash the subject with these LED panels. On the back walls, I asked a friend of mine to build these wooden panels to give the backdrop some more texture. We also hung this neon sign with the name of the broadcast for an extra splash of color in the middle of the frame. For each corner, I decided to add these Govee 2 lights to act as a bit of a backlight that also gives some more warmth to the shot. In my opinion, it really ties the room together, and I'll leave a link for these lights in the description down below. You could substitute any kind of light if these Govee lights don't fit into your budget. The idea is to just have a warm light to offset the cool light that I'm shooting from the front. In the middle of the set, I have 2 chairs set up and some tables. This acts as a place for the guests to sit and have a discussion while I have a 3 camera setup pointed at them. You'll want to try to keep these chairs away from the back wall to eliminate any potential shadows. It also gives separation between the subject and the background. For the cameras, I'm using 3 of these Blackmagic 4K Pocket Cinema cameras. These cameras were the biggest expense of this setup, and you could substitute them for any camera of your choosing. Using a 3 camera setup allows there to be 1 wide shot that picks up both guests in the entirety of the set, and then I have 2 more cameras that I can use for individual close-ups of each guest. So we have camera number 1, which is our wide, which is what you're looking at right now. Camera number 2 is the solo shot for the chair that I'm sitting in. So this is if this person wants to say something directly to the audience or if they're making a good point. And then camera number 3, we've got camera 3, camera 2, and then camera 1. If you're making a similar setup to this for yourself, you could probably get by with only 2 cameras. That way you would have 1 camera for a wider shot of you, and then 1 camera for your talking head. Behind the camera, I have a TV on a cheap Amazon stand. This way the guests, while they're sitting in the set, can see any live comments from YouTube or wherever we're streaming to as they're happening live. It also acts as a way for them to see the live feed of the stream. So any intro, countdowns, or transition videos, anything like that will show up on this TV as well to keep our guests informed of what's happening. So around the TV, we have our 3 cameras. From each camera, we have an HDMI cable running to the Blackmagic Mini Pro switcher located on the production desk. This switcher is one of Blackmagic's cheaper options, but it allows you to connect up to 4 cameras and switch between them in real time. Plugged into the same switcher is this old Allen & Heath soundboard. This is something that the church had lying around, but you could find a cheap alternative for your mixing. Rode actually makes some good options as well. For audio, so we can hear what's being said in the room, we are using this wireless Shure lapel system that runs into the soundboard, as well as a cheap Audio-Technica mic for whoever is producing the show. So the cameras and audio both feed into the Blackmagic Mini Pro. And then the switcher is connected to the computer. The computer is what acts as a brain for everything. And then on the computer, we run OBS into Restream so that we can record and stream everything. If you're wanting a video on how I use OBS or Restream or anything of the computer side of things, let me know and I'll make a separate video explaining how I do that. Also plugged into the computer is a Stream Deck that I use to switch between scenes in OBS quickly. With this setup, we can record any solo talking head stuff we might need, conduct interviews, and record our weekly video podcast. Whoever is speaking can sit in the chairs with lapel microphones. Their audio and video will be sent to the switcher, which is connected to the computer and sends our video and audio paired together into OBS. Let's be honest, in the world of podcasting and all other forms of online content, good audio isn't just optional anymore, it is essential. Today, I'm going to be breaking down how you can make your content sound pro level even if you're just starting out. I'm going to cover why audio matters so much, the gear you actually need, simple recording techniques, easy editing tips, and how to put it all together so you can sound your best. So the first thing I want to go over is why audio even matters in the first place when it comes to the content that you create. When someone first hits play on your podcast or your content or whatever it is, the things they notice first are not your guest, are not your title, is not your thumbnail, any of those things. The number one thing that the audience notices first is how your content sounds. If it's full of background noise, harsh echoes, or even muffled voices, people will mentally check out even if they want to hear what you're trying to say. The truth is that good audio actually builds trust between you and your audience. It tells your listener to relax, they're in good hands, this content is actually worth their time. So the bottom line is, if your audio sucks, most people won't even stick around long enough to understand the good content that you would like to provide for them. Another thing to keep in mind is that humans will subconsciously forgive poor video quality as long as the audio is good. Humans will not forgive poor audio quality even if the video quality is 4K and perfectly shining and smooth. But when your podcast or your content sounds crystal clear and smooth, your audience leans in and they draw in close because they want to hear what you have to say. So now that we know why the audio is so important in the first place, now let's go over some gear that you could use to sound better. And listen, you don't need a Hollywood studio for you to sound good, but you do need a few key pieces of equipment. And you're in luck because I'm actually going to leave some links in the description box of this video to some equipment that I recommend. Now these are affiliate links, so that means that if you buy something through these links, I do get a small commission. First of all, thank you for that. But also, I just wanted to be completely transparent so that you are aware that anything you buy through those links, I do make a small commission. So the first thing you're going to need is a microphone. A good dynamic microphone will change your life. Something like the Rode Pod Mic or a Shure MV7. These sound great without picking up every little noise in the room. The second thing you'll need is an audio interface. If you're using an XLR microphone, which I recommend, you'll need an interface like the Focusrite Scarlett Solo, which I have linked below. This is what connects your microphone to your computer and gives you a clean, professional sound. The third thing you need is a good set of headphones. Closed-back headphones like the Audio-Technica M50X help you hear exactly what's happening during recording and editing. Using good headphones actually encourages you and your guest to keep talking directly into the microphone because you'll be able to hear what's happening in real time, so you'll notice anytime you start to move away from the microphone. The fourth thing you'll need is a boom arm or a mic stand. These aren't just for looking cool, it keeps your mic in the right spot, stable, and it's hands-free. Fifth thing that would be beneficial to you is a pop filter or a windscreen. These little tools stop those harsh P's and S sounds from wrecking your recording. This is a small thing that can make a huge difference. And that's it. If you start with this core setup, you will be light years ahead of most podcasters or beginner content creators. You can always start with the things that you have. I'm not saying that all of this is required, but I just want to keep you informed so that you understand what the industry standard looks like. Alright, so now that you have your gear, how you actually record is just as important. First, you want to control your environment. Soft spaces equal better sound. Record near couches, carpet, and curtains. Avoid huge empty rooms or noisy areas. Second, mic technique matters. You want to stay close, but not too close. About a fist away from the mic is a perfect place to start. It's also good practice to talk slightly across the mic instead of directly into it. This way, you avoid plosives. Third, you'll want to set proper levels. You want your loudest peaks sitting around -6 dB and your average volume around -18 dB. If you're too quiet, you'll sound thin, and if you're too loud, you will clip and distort. Fourth, this ties into what we talked about earlier, you want to monitor while you record. This way, you catch little issues, a weird hum, before you get too deep into a conversation. You never want to be in a place where you finished an entire episode, an hour's worth of talking, you go back and realize that you have an audio issue from the beginning. Recording clean audio at the source is the #1 thing that separates amateurs from professionals. Now that you have your gear and you recorded the thing that you want to record, it's time to polish it up. Editing doesn't have to be complicated, it just needs to be intentional. The first thing I'd recommend is cleaning up any background noise. Most editing softwares have simple noise reduction tools. It's good practice to be gentle with it though, because if you use it too much, you'll start to sound like a robot. My second tip is tighten your timing. Cut out awkward pauses, heavy breaths, or off-topic rambles. You want to keep your talking pace natural but tight. The third thing is you want to balance your audio levels. Make sure you and your guest are at a similar volume throughout. No one wants to be riding their volume knob and turning your video up the entire conversation just to hear what's being said. Fourth, use light compression. Compression smooths out your voice, keeps the quiet parts audible, and tames the loud moments. It's like putting a nice polish on your sound. Audio editing isn't about making yourself sound perfect, it's just making it so that it's easy to understand and that it's a joy to listen to. So now let's bring it all together. Great audio is really about consistency. With everything that you make and put out into the world, you want to deliver a clear, clean, and confident sound. So here's a really quick checklist that I use anytime I record audio. First, you want a quiet environment. Second is you want proper mic technique. Third, you want good input levels. Fourth is I recommend monitoring with headphones. And 5 is light editing afterwards. Again, you don't have to be perfect, you just have to be intentional. And if you can commit to just getting 1% better with everything that you put out, your audio will continue to improve. And trust me, your audience will take notice. What is up, everybody? If you're new here, my name is Skylar, and today we're going to be diving into the basics of using a camera. Whether you're into photography, videography, this video is for you. So we're talking ISO, we're talking aperture, we're talking shutter speed, we're talking frame rate. And if you don't know what any of that means, stick around because I'm going to explain to you what those are and how to use them. So make sure you're watching all the way to the end if you want to take better pictures and video. So just for your knowledge, I'm recording this video on my Canon EOS R. I've got a wide-angle lens at 16mm, and I have a Rode microphone in my hand, and what I'm using for demonstration purposes. This is the Canon EOS Rebel T7. This is considered a budget-friendly camera, and it might be something that you guys have yourselves. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be holding this Rebel camera, but everything I am talking about applies to other cameras as well. So let's start with ISO. ISO controls how sensitive your camera's light sensor is to light. A lower ISO, like 100 or 200, means less sensitivity, which is great for bright conditions. A higher ISO, like 1600 or 3200, makes the sensor more sensitive, which helps in low light situations. But there's a trade-off. Higher ISO introduces grain and noise into your image. So in other words, whenever you're setting your ISO, you can go to a lower number when you're in brighter settings. So whether that's outside, a well-lit room, whatever it may be, you can go to a lower number. Whenever you're in a darker room or it's nighttime, you want to go to a higher number. The trade-off is whenever you go to a higher number, it makes your image more grainy and it makes it have a bunch of little speckles in it because you are digitally making the image brighter. So ideally, you want to keep your ISO number as low as possible at all times. That is not completely realistic when you're in dark settings, so you might want to bump the ISO. Just remember that the higher the number is, the more grain you're going to have in your image. So now with this knowledge, we know that the goal should be to keep the ISO number as low as possible while maintaining a well-exposed image. Next, let's go over shutter speed. Shutter speed controls how long your camera's sensor is exposed to the light. So a faster shutter speed, like 1/1000th of a second, freezes motion. This is perfect for sports or action shots or maybe even a bird. A slower shutter speed, like 1/30th of a second, lets more light in but introduces more motion blur. So whenever you're going to record video, shutter speed follows one general rule. This is the 180-degree shutter rule. So this means that your shutter speed should be set to double your frame rate. We're going to talk about frame rate in a second, but for example, if you're shooting in 24 frames per second and you want that film look, your shutter speed should be double 24 frames per second. So next, let's go over aperture. Aperture, or f-stop, controls how much light enters through the lens and also affects depth of field, or how much your image is in focus. A lower f-stop lets more light in and creates a blurry background. This could be great if you're shooting portraits of people or things that you want to separate from the background of your image. A higher f-stop, like f11 or f16, keeps more of the image in focus. This is great if you're shooting things like landscapes. So if you want that cinematic blurry background, go for a lower f-stop. If you want your entire image to be in focus, go for a higher f-stop. So next, let's go over frame rate. Here are 3 examples to go over what different frame rates might look like. So frame rate determines how many frames per second, or FPS, your video captures. 24 frames per second is the cinematic standard. This is used in most movies because it has a natural motion blur. 30 frames per second is a bit smoother and is often used for TV and online content. 60 frames per second or above is great for slow motion footage because you can slow it down in post-production while keeping it smooth. So in other words, if you're wanting that cinematic look, go for 24 frames per second. If you're filming action or vlogs, 30 frames per second might be a better option. And if you want to slow something down with slow motion, make sure you're shooting in 60 frames per second or higher. So there you go, that is the very basics of camera settings. ISO, shutter speed, aperture, frame rate, all of these things work together like different ingredients of a soup to give you the look that you are after. If you found this video helpful at all, hit the like button, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and please share this with somebody who might find this helpful. If you have any questions at all, or you want me to talk about something else or go into more detail, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey, what's going on, everybody? If you're looking to start streaming or recording a podcast, this video is for you. I'm going to walk you through everything from downloading OBS, setting up scenes, configuring your audio, and getting a smooth stream the first time. By the end of this video, you will have a fully functioning OBS setup ready to stream and record. So first things first, what is OBS Studio? OBS, or Open Broadcaster Software, is a free open source program for recording and streaming. It's one of the most popular tools out there because it's powerful, customizable, and completely free. So to download it, just head over to obsproject.com, select your operating system, which could be Windows, Mac, or Linux, and install it like any other program. Now that you have it installed, go ahead and launch OBS. The first thing I always do after installing OBS is I run the Auto Configuration Wizard. So go over to Tools, Auto Configuration Wizard. So here you can optimize it for streaming first, recording second, or just for recording, I will not be streaming. So click the first one, streaming first, recording a second. Once you're done with that, go ahead and follow the prompts and let OBS determine the best settings for resolution, bitrate, and encoder. This will ensure that you're getting a stable, high-quality stream without having to manually tweak technical settings. Now that that's set up, let's talk about scenes. Scenes are different sections of your stream or recording that you can switch between. Each scene can contain different sources like video, images, text, or audio, allowing you to create a smooth, professional production. I personally like to set up at least 3 scenes for a podcast. This would be your intro scene, a simple video or graphic with music to start the stream, your main feed or live feed. This is where the actual podcast happens with with your camera and guest audio. And then finally, your outro scene, a closing screen with music or a call to action. To create a scene, go to the scenes box located right here, click the plus button, and name it accordingly. So for this example, I have my own personal brand video for the intro scene, and if I were to click this, the video would start playing automatically. Now, once this is done, you could simply go to your live feed, which I have nothing set up at the moment, or once the podcast is over, you would finish the video by hitting your outro. Next up, audio. This is where a lot of people can go wrong because OBS automatically adds your system audio and microphone to every scene. We don't want that. We want our guests talking only during the main feed, not over the intro or the outro. So to fix this, you're going to go to your settings at the bottom right of OBS. Once you're in the settings, you're going to go over to audio. Once you're inside of audio, you need to set all default devices to disabled. Now that you've done that, you can go back and manually add an audio input source to your main feed. Also, I'm recording this outside at my apartment complex, and check out this creepy mannequin that's set up to look like a person watching me. So this whole time I feel like this guy's been staring at me. So check it out. So now you need to head over to your main feed scene, or in this case, I have it labeled as live. Now you'll need to add your mic or audio interface so that the people can hear you talking. So to do that, you're going to go over to this sources box, and you're going to click the plus sign at the bottom left. Once this menu pulls up, you're going to go to the audio input capture. Once you're here, you can label it whatever you would like. Now you're going to select your microphone or audio interface from this list. Now, you can adjust levels in this audio mixer panel to make sure your voice is clear. If you have multiple guests, you can add additional audio input capture sources or use software like Voicemeeter to manage multiple audio channels. So now that we talked about audio, you're going to need to add a video capture device in this same source box. So you'll just go to the plus at the bottom left again. This time you'll add a video capture device. You can of course name this whatever you would like for it to be. And then from here is where you can decide what camera you would like to use within OBS. You can use your computer's built-in webcam, or if you plug in any external cameras, they'll show up here as well. Another cool thing is you can actually remote to your phone, so if I were to hit my phone camera, I could show things with my phone camera wirelessly. Now before you start recording or streaming, let's go over a few key settings to make sure everything runs smoothly. First, let's look at your recording format. So under settings, on the left, go ahead and click on the output tab. Within this output tab, you're going to set your recording format to MP4. MKV is safer because it prevents file corruption, but I personally prefer MP4. Next, let's look at some hotkeys. So while you're still in your settings tab, go over here to the left side and click hotkeys. From here, you can set different shortcuts for switching between scenes quickly. Finally, let's check your stream key. If you're going to be streaming, make sure that from your settings, you go to stream, and then right here under stream key, make sure you put in the proper key from YouTube, Restream, Twitch, wherever you're streaming to. Make sure you put in the proper stream key right here. So in other words, your stream key is going to connect OBS to whatever platform you're streaming to. And that's it. With this setup, you are now ready to stream and record a professional podcast using OBS Studios. If this was helpful at all, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more, and I'll see you in the next video.